The first time my mother-in-law said I deserved whatever happened to me, I wasn't there to hear it. I was sitting behind my desk at the Greenfield Community Health Center outside Pittsburgh, staring at a credit card alert from France and wondering why my husband's New York training trip had somehow charged me for a luxury hotel in the Alps. 3 days later, Carol Bennett would look at me as if she were seeing a dead woman walk through her front door. But that afternoon, I still thought the worst thing Mark had done was lie about money. I had no idea that money was only the beginning. 2 weeks earlier, I was standing in a department store holding a navy wool coat I had wanted for almost a month. "Try it on again," my friend Melissa said over FaceTime. "The old one you wear looks like it survived the Bush administration." I laughed despite myself. "It's not that bad. Claire, one cuff is fraying. I can sew it. You are 33 years old. You have a full-time job. You're allowed to own a coat without performing surgery on the old one first." I looked at the price tag. $189. Not cheap but not insane either. I had already done the math 3 times. Mortgage paid. Utilities paid. Groceries covered. No major expenses coming up except Christmas. I slipped the coat on and studied myself in the mirror. For once I liked what I saw. Then my phone buzzed. "Mark." I answered. "Hey, where are you?" "At Ross Park Mall." There was a pause. "Why?" I immediately felt defensive, which should have told me something. I needed to pick up a few Christmas gifts. "For who?" "My mom." "Melissa." "Maybe something for your mom if I see anything." Another pause. "What are you buying for yourself?" I looked at the coat. "Nothing yet." "Claire." The way he said my name made my shoulders tighten. Melissa heard it through the phone and rolled her eyes. I stepped away from the mirror. "I found a coat." "What happened to your coat?" "Nothing happened to it. It's 7 years old. So it still works. It's worn out." "How much?" I hesitated. That was my second mistake. Mark sighed before I even answered. "How much, Claire?" $189. He gave a short laugh that held no humor. "Seriously? It's a winter coat. We have a mortgage." "I know we have a mortgage." "Then act like it." My face heated. Melissa's expression changed on the screen. She mouthed, "Hang up." I didn't. "I haven't bought a new coat in years." "That doesn't mean you need a $200 one now." "It's not 200. Claire, come on. Don't play that game." "What game?" "The one where you convince yourself something is reasonable because you really want it." I looked around, suddenly embarrassed even though no one was paying attention to me. "I can afford it." "We can afford it," Mark corrected. "There's a difference." That line had worked on me for 9 years. It worked again. I took off the coat. "Fine." His voice softened immediately. "Thank you." I hated that "thank you." It made me feel like a child who had finally agreed to behave. "I'll see you at home." "Love you." "Love you too." I hung up. Melissa stared at me. "Please tell me you're buying the coat." I carried it back toward the rack. "No, Claire. It's fine." "No, it's not. We do have a mortgage. So do half the people in America." Mark gets nervous about money. Mark gets nervous about your money. I stopped. "What's that supposed to mean?" She hesitated. "Nothing." "Melissa." She sighed. "I just mean he never seems nervous when he's spending on someone else." I knew exactly who she meant. "Don't." I didn't say her name. You didn't have to. The woman next door was Diane Parker. She had moved into the house beside ours a little over 2 years earlier, about 6 months after her husband died from pancreatic cancer. First, I felt terrible for her. Everyone did. Diane was 36, quiet, polite, and always seemed slightly apologetic for needing help. The first time Mark helped her, it was because her car battery died. The second time, her garbage disposal jammed. Then it was a broken fence latch. Then a clogged gutter. Then snow. Then a leaking pipe. Then a loose cabinet door. At some point, my husband stopped being the helpful neighbor and became Diane Parker's unpaid handyman. I was apparently the only person who noticed. When I got home from the mall that day, Mark wasn't there. His truck was in the driveway. I called him. He answered after 4 rings. "What? Where are you?" "Next door." "Of course." "Doing what?" "Diane's furnace is making some noise." I closed my eyes. "You know HVAC companies exist. It's probably nothing. You said that about her sink last month." "Claire." There it was again. That warning tone. I dropped my purse onto the kitchen counter. "How long have you been over there?" "Maybe 40 minutes. You told me we couldn't afford a $189 coat. What does that have to do with this?" It has to do with the fact that you seem very generous when Diane needs something. Silence. Then Mark laughed once. You cannot be serious. I am serious. She lost her husband 2 years ago. The instant I said it, I regretted it. Mark's voice sharpened. Wow, that's not what I meant. Sounds like exactly what you meant. I'm saying she can call a repair company and spend $300 for a guy to come out and tighten a connection I can fix in 10 minutes? So her money matters. What? You want to save her $300, but I'm selfish for wanting a coat. You're comparing completely different things. No, I'm comparing what you think is worth spending money on. Mark exhaled hard. Do you hear yourself right now? Yes. You're jealous of a widow. I went quiet. He had said it before. Each time it embarrassed me enough to end the argument. This time I forced myself to keep going. I'm uncomfortable with how much time you spend there. I'm helping a neighbor. At 10 o'clock at night, her basement was flooding. You were there until almost midnight. Because water doesn't care what time it is. You didn't even answer my calls. My hands were under a pipe. For 2 hours. He went silent. Then his voice changed. Colder. You know what, Claire? I'm not doing this. Doing what? Being interrogated because you can't handle the fact that another woman needs help. That isn't fair. No, what isn't fair is expecting me to become a worse person just to make you feel more secure. That one landed exactly where he intended. I stared at the floor. I didn't ask you to be a worse person. You're acting like kindness is cheating. I never said cheating, but you're thinking it. I wasn't sure if I was. That was the worst part. By the end of every argument, Mark could make me unsure of the thought I had started with. I just want boundaries. She's alone. So have some compassion. I heard a woman's voice faintly in the background. Diane. Mark. I found the flashlight. I froze. You're in her basement? Yes. Fine. Claire. I hung up. 20 minutes later, Mark came home carrying a brand new snowblower attachment manual. I frowned. What's that? Nothing. Where did it come from? Hardware store. For us? He set it on the counter too quickly. For Diane. I stared at him. You bought her a snowblower? She needed one. With whose money? His jaw tightened. My money. Your money. You know what I mean. No, I don't. Claire, stop. How much was it? He pulled open the refrigerator. Why does it matter? It mattered when my coat cost $189. He shut the refrigerator door harder than necessary. She has a long driveway and no one to clear it. She can hire someone. That costs more in the long run. I laughed in disbelief. So this is financial planning now? He looked at me like I was exhausting him. This is exactly why I hate talking about money with you. I almost laughed again. You hate talking about money with me? Yes, because everything becomes emotional. You told me not to buy a coat this afternoon. Because you don't need one. And Diane needs a snowblower? She's alone. That answer was becoming a weapon. Every time I objected, he reminded me she was alone. As if being a widow gave her a lifetime exemption from normal boundaries. As if being a wife meant I had no right to ask for them. The following Sunday, Carol came over for dinner. I should have known better than to mention the argument. Carol had never heard a story involving Mark and concluded that Mark might be wrong. I was serving chicken when she noticed my old coat draped over the dining chair. You still wearing that thing? She asked. I gave Mark a quick look. He kept his eyes on his plate. I thought about replacing it. Carol nodded. You should. Just don't go crazy. Good coats are overpriced. Mark said nothing. Something in me snapped. I found one for $189. Carol's eyebrows rose. $190 for a coat? $189. Same thing. I sat down. Mark thought it was too much. Carol gave her son an approving smile. He's always been sensible. Mark finally looked up. Mom. What? You have. She turned to me. Claire, you know how expensive everything is now. You two aren't exactly rolling in money. I know. Mark works hard. So do I. Carol blinked. I didn't say you didn't. It sounded like you were about to. Her mouth tightened. Mark immediately intervened. Can we not do this? Carol leaned back. I'm just saying someone has to think about the future. I looked at Mark. He stared at his dinner. 2 nights earlier he had spent hundreds of dollars helping Diane. And somehow I was the irresponsible one. Carol noticed my expression. What? Nothing. No, say it. I should have stayed quiet. Instead I said Mark bought Diane a snowblower. Carol paused, then shrugged. So, I actually laughed. That's it? What do you want me to say? That it's interesting he thinks I'm irresponsible for wanting a coat, but has no problem buying expensive equipment for the woman next door. Carol's face changed immediately. Oh, Claire. I hated those two words coming from her. What? You cannot still be doing this. Doing what? Being jealous of that poor woman. Mark dropped his fork. Mom. No, she needs to hear it. I stared at Carol. She continued. Diane buried her husband. You still have yours. The words would become grotesquely ironic later. At the time, they only made me feel small. Carol folded her napkin. If Mark is helping her, you should be proud you married a decent man. I am proud when he helps people. Then what is the problem? The problem is that he has different rules for her. Carol gave a humorless little smile. Maybe because she doesn't complain every time he does something kind. I felt the sting in my chest. Mark finally spoke. That's enough. But he didn't defend me. He never said, Mom, you're wrong. He never said, Claire has a point. He just wanted the conversation to end before he had to choose a side. After Carol left, I stood at the kitchen sink with my arms folded. Mark came up behind me. You didn't have to bring Diane up. I turned. Of course that's what you took from tonight. You embarrassed me. Your mother insulted me in my own house. Because you made it sound like I'm spending all our money on another woman. Aren't you? His expression went flat. No. Then show me the receipt. What? For the snowblower. He laughed. You want receipts now? Yes. Jesus? Claire. What card did you use? My card. Which card? Why? Because we have joint accounts. He stepped closer. You need to decide whether you trust me. That's not an answer. It is the answer. No. It's a threat. His face hardened. You know what your problem is? I almost smiled because Mark always had an answer to that question. What? You're never satisfied. I went still. He gestured around the kitchen. House, job, husband. Everything is fine and you still find something to be unhappy about. Everything is not fine. Because you keep deciding it isn't. That night, we slept in the same bed without touching. The next morning, Mark kissed my forehead before work like none of it had happened. That was another one of his talents. He could erase a fight without resolving it. A week later, he came home unusually cheerful. I have to go to New York. I looked up from the bills I was sorting. When? Next week. For what? Training. What kind of training? He opened a cabinet. Management thing. You've never mentioned it. It got finalized today. How long? 6 days. Over Christmas? I'll be back before Christmas. He smiled. Barely. I frowned. Mark hated business travel. He once skipped a conference in Cleveland because he said hotel prices were ridiculous. Now he was going to New York for almost a week and seemed completely relaxed. Is the company paying? Yes. Hotel too? Yes, Claire. I ignored the irritation. What part of New York? Manhattan. What hotel? He stared at me. I don't know yet. You're leaving in 4 days. So usually people know where they're staying. He gave me a tired smile. You're doing it again. What? Turning normal things into investigations. I looked away. Forget it. His expression softened. He walked over and squeezed my shoulder. Hey. I didn't answer. He bent down and kissed the side of my head. When I get back, we'll do something nice. What does that mean? Dinner. Maybe a weekend away after the holidays. I laughed. You think we can afford that? For half a second, something strange crossed his face. Then he smiled. We'll figure it out. The morning he left, Diane's driveway was empty. I noticed because I was carrying trash to the curb. I told myself not to think about it. Still, when Mark texted me from the airport, boarding soon. Love you. I replied. Is Diane out of town too? 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Finally. How would I know? I stared at the message. Too fast. Too defensive. But I put the phone away. I had spent 2 years training myself not to trust my instincts. The next morning, I was at work when my phone vibrated. A bank notification. I glanced down expecting a grocery charge or utility payment. Instead I saw, International Transaction Alert. I frowned.
Hôtel Mont Vallon, France.
$1,284.63. My first thought was fraud. I opened the banking app. Before I could log in, another alert appeared.
Maison Laurent, France.
$327.48. Then another.
Alpine Sport Courchevel, France.
$614.20. I sat up straighter. Claire. Melissa leaned around the side of my office door. You okay? I think someone stole my card. She stepped inside. What? Another alert.
Bijoux Laurent, France.
$892. My mouth went dry. Melissa came around my desk. Call the bank. I'm calling Mark first. Why Mark? Because maybe he knows something. Even as I said it, I knew how ridiculous it sounded. I dialed. He answered on the sixth ring. His voice was low. Hey, I'm about to go into a session. Where are you? New York. What hotel? A pause. What? What hotel are you staying at? Claire, why? Tell me. His tone changed. The Midtown Regent. I typed it into my computer. It existed. For 1 second, relief washed over me. Then I said, my card is being used in France. Silence. What? Hotel. Restaurant. Ski shop. Jewelry. That sounds like fraud. For charges. So call the bank. You don't sound surprised. Why would I be surprised? Cards get stolen. I still have the card. Someone copied it. Maybe. Obviously. Melissa stood across from me with her arms folded. I asked, did you use it for anything? No. Did you take one of my cards by accident? No. Mark. Claire. His patience vanished. I'm in the middle of training. I'm trying to figure out why thousands of dollars are being charged in France. And I just told you. Fraud. How do you know? Because what else would it be? I went quiet. He sighed. Call the bank. Freeze the card. This is not a crisis. Thousands of dollars is a crisis. You always do this. My fingers tightened around the phone. Do what? See one weird thing and immediately panic. This is for weird things. Then deal with the bank. Why are you angry? I'm not angry. You sound angry. I'm annoyed because you're acting like I personally took your card to Europe. My stomach tightened. I hadn't accused him of that. Not even in my head. Mark. Someone spoke near him. A woman. I couldn't make out the words. Then Mark said quickly, I have to go. Who was that? What? The woman. Someone from training. Put her on. He laughed. Are you serious? Yes. Claire, I'm hanging up now. Mark. The line went dead. Melissa stared at me. That didn't sound like a training session. I looked at my phone. No. Call his office. I looked up. What? Call his office. Why? Because right now you're thinking everything except the obvious. I don't know what the obvious is. Yes, you do. I hated her for saying it. Mostly because some part of me did know. I called Mark's company. The receptionist answered. Bennett Industrial Supply, this is Katie. Hi, Katie. This is Claire Bennett. Claire. I'm trying to reach Mark. I know he's at the New York training, but there was a pause. The what? My heart stopped. The training. Another pause. Then Katie said carefully, Mark isn't at a training. I gripped the edge of my desk. He said the company sent him to New York. Oh, that one word told me everything before she continued. He took vacation time this week. Melissa closed her eyes. I couldn't feel my fingers. Vacation? Yes. Did he say where he was going?
I'm sorry, Claire.
I really don't know. Okay, Claire. Thanks, Katie. I hung up. For several seconds, neither Melissa nor I spoke. Then my phone buzzed again. Another card alert. I looked down.
Chalet des Neiges, Courchevel, France.
$2,146. Melissa whispered Claire. I didn't answer. Underneath the charge was a cardholder name. My name. Claire Bennett. I stared at it until the letters blurred. Mark had told me he was in New York. His company said he was on vacation. Diane's house was empty. And someone in the French Alps was spending money under my name. I still didn't understand how those facts fit together. Not yet. But within days, a woman would be dead. A man would be buried beneath snow. And Carol Bennett would discover that when she wished death on the woman she thought had betrayed her son, she had been condemning the wrong person. The tragedy had already begun. I just hadn't reached the mountain yet. By noon I knew 3 things. My husband was not in New York. My neighbor Diane was not home. And someone in the French Alps was still spending money under my name. What I did not know was that before the day ended, a woman would be missing under an avalanche, my mother-in-law would curse me as if I were already dead, and I would be asked to help save the husband who had lied to me about everything. Melissa pulled the chair closer to my desk. Call the bank now. I nodded, but my hands would not stop shaking. I need to call Mark again. No. Melissa. No. You already called him. He lied. We don't know that. She stared at me. Claire, his company just told you he took vacation time. I know. He told you he was in Manhattan. I know. Diane's house is empty. I know. And your credit card is paying for ski gear in France. I pressed my fingers against my forehead. I know. Melissa's voice softened, then stopped, giving him time to build another explanation. That hurt because it sounded true. I called the bank. A fraud specialist named Aaron answered after I went through security questions. I'm seeing the transactions, he said. You're confirming you're currently in Pennsylvania? Yes. And you have the physical card ending in 4186? I pulled it from my wallet. It's right here. Okay. I'm going to lock that card. Good. He typed for a moment. Then he paused. Mrs. Bennett, I need to ask you something. My stomach tightened. What? Are you aware there is an additional cardholder on this account? I went still. No. Melissa's eyebrows lifted. Aaron continued carefully. There is a second physical card attached to the account. Who is it under? The account is still under your name. The secondary card is not separately named. I never requested another card. Another pause. Do you share account access with your spouse? My husband knows some of the passwords. We're married. I understand. What are you saying? I'm saying the transactions may have been made with a valid physical card. My mouth went dry. Someone ordered another card using my account? I can't determine intent from here. Was it mailed to my house? I'm not able to see full fulfillment records on my end, but I can escalate that. Please do. Absolutely. I looked at Melissa. Her expression had changed from anger to alarm. I asked, can you tell me when that second card was issued? Aaron gave me the date. 11 months earlier. I closed my eyes. 11 months. Around the same time Mark had started making more comments about my spending. Around the same time Diane's basement remodel began. Around the same time Carol had started asking why our credit card balance was always so high. Mrs. Bennett? I'm here. Do you want to report the secondary card as unauthorized? My voice came out quieter than I expected. Yes. Okay. I swallowed. And I want a full transaction history for the last 18 months. Melissa looked at me sharply. Aaron said, I can send that through your secure online portal. Do it. When I hung up, Melissa leaned forward. You didn't know about the second card? No. Not at all. No. She said nothing for a few seconds. Then, Claire, this is bigger than a ski trip. I know. This time I really did. I opened the banking app and downloaded the transaction history. There were hundreds of charges. Grocery stores, gas stations, utilities, normal things. Then others I couldn't immediately place. A furniture warehouse, a high-end home improvement store, a boutique outside Pittsburgh I had never visited, restaurants Mark had never taken me to. I felt sick. Melissa pointed at one. Did you buy something from Everly Jewelers in September? No. $480. No.
Pottery Barn.
No. West Elm? No. I looked at the dates. One of them made me stop. The night of September 14th, Mark had told me he was helping Diane assemble bookshelves. He came home after midnight. The charge was from a restaurant in downtown Pittsburgh. $216. I whispered he wasn't building shelves. Melissa didn't answer. She didn't need to. Called Mark again. Straight to voicemail. Again. Voicemail. I texted him. Call me. Now. No answer. Then I typed. I spoke to your office. The typing bubble appeared almost immediately, then vanished. A full minute passed. Finally, why are you calling my office? I stared at the message. Not where did they say I was? Not there must be a misunderstanding. Why are you calling my office? I called him. This time he answered. What the hell, Claire? I almost laughed. What the hell? You're calling my coworkers now? You lied to me. I did not. Your company says you're on vacation. Silence. Then his tone shifted. Not guilty. Annoyed. It's complicated. Make it simple. The training got canceled. Then why didn't you tell me? Because I already had the week off. And you went where? Claire. Where are you? I'm not doing this while you're worked up. I'm not worked up. I'm asking where my husband is. New York. I stood up so fast my chair rolled backward. You just told me the training was canceled. That doesn't mean I left New York. So you decided to spend 6 days alone in Manhattan? I needed a break. From me? From everything. Did Diane need the same break? He went silent. My heart pounded. Answer me. You're being ridiculous. Is Diane with you? No. Then put the hotel front desk on the phone. What? Walk downstairs. Put someone from the Midtown Regent on the phone. He scoffed. I'm not proving my location like I'm on parole. Because you can't. I'm hanging up. Mark, if you hang up, you need to calm down. Then he ended the call. I stood there holding the phone. Melissa whispered, he's not in New York. No. You know that now, right? I nodded. It hurt more to say it out loud. No, he's not. I left work early. I drove home and went straight to Diane's house. Her car was gone. The curtains were closed. No packages sat on the porch. I rang the bell anyway. Nothing. I knocked. Nothing. I tried again, harder. Diane? Silence. I stepped back and nearly bumped into our neighbor, Mrs. Wallace, who was walking her little terrier. Oh, Claire. I forced a smile. Hi, Mrs. Wallace. Everything okay? Do you know if Diane went somewhere? She thought for a second. I assumed she did. When? Yesterday morning. My stomach dropped. You saw her leave? I saw Mark loading luggage. The world seemed to tilt. What? Your husband. She looked confused by my face. He had that big gray suitcase and another red one. I figured he was helping her with something. Did you see them leave together? I wasn't watching that closely. Please think. Mrs. Wallace frowned. I saw Mark put bags in his SUV. Then Diane came out with a smaller suitcase. My throat tightened. Were they arguing? No. They seemed happy. Happy. That word hurt worse than almost anything else. Mrs. Wallace lowered her voice. Claire, is something wrong? I stepped back. No. Then I stopped lying. Yes. I walked home without saying more. Inside, I opened Mark's desk drawer. Nothing useful. His passport was gone. That confirmed what I already knew. I sat on the floor beside the desk. 9 years. 9 years of hearing we can't afford that. 9 years of coupons, postponed trips, thrift store furniture, and pretending I didn't mind. How many times had I apologized for spending money I hadn't even spent? How many arguments had he won using charges I now suspected weren't mine? My phone rang. Carol. For one stupid second, relief went through me. Maybe Mark had called her. Maybe she knew something. I answered. Carol. Her voice was sharp. Where are you? I frowned. Home. Don't lie to me. I stared at the phone. What? You heard me. I'm in my house. You expect me to believe that? My confusion gave way to irritation. What are you talking about? She made a sound of disgust. I just got a call. From who? The consulate. Or the embassy. I don't know. Someone in France. Every muscle in my body tightened.
France?
Yes, France. I stood up. What did they say? They said there was an avalanche. For 1 second, I forgot how to breathe. Carol kept talking. 2 Americans are missing. My mind raced. Who? That's what I asked them. And? They said your name. My fingers went numb around the phone. My name? Claire Bennett. I sat back down. Carol's anger exploded. So this is where you went. I didn't go anywhere. Stop lying. I'm not lying. They have your credit card. Your name is on the hotel. My stomach turned. The hotel. The charges. The second card. Carol, listen to me. No, you listen to me. Her voice cracked with fury. You have spent years acting like Mark doesn't understand money, and now you take off to France? I am in Pennsylvania. With who? What? They said there was a man and a woman. I went cold. Did they give you the man's name? No. Why not? I was too angry to keep listening. My mouth opened. Carol. She barreled on. They said something about search teams, family confirmation, emergency contacts. I told them exactly what I thought. What did you tell them? A pause. Then she said, with ugly satisfaction, I told them if you spent my son's money to run off on some ski vacation, then you brought this on yourself. My stomach clenched. Carol, I told them Mark has been carrying you financially for years. That is not true. And if you're trapped up there because of your own stupidity, maybe for once you'll understand consequences. I stared at the wall. Then she said it. The sentence I would never forget. If you got yourself killed doing something this selfish, Claire, that would be on you. I closed my eyes. Not because I believed I was in danger, because I finally understood how little this woman thought of me. Did you even ask who the man was? Carol hesitated. No. Did you ask where Mark is? Mark is in New York. No, he isn't. Silence. What? His company says he took vacation. Why would he lie to you about that? I think you already know. Her voice changed. Claire, call him. I have. So have I. And? He won't tell me where he is. Carol went quiet. For the first time, fear entered her voice. What are you saying? I'm saying Diane is gone too. Another silence. This one longer. No. I just spoke to Mrs. Wallace. She saw Mark loading Diane's luggage yesterday. No. Her car is gone. You're twisting something. Carol, for once in your life, stop defending him long enough to listen. She gasped. Don't speak to me like that. I just heard you say I deserve to die. That's not what I. It is exactly what you said. My phone buzzed with another incoming call. Unknown international number. I looked at it. Carol, I have another call. Claire. I hung up. I answered immediately. Hello? A man spoke in a calm, formal voice. Mrs. Claire Bennett? Yes. My name is Daniel Morris. I'm calling in coordination with U.S. Consular Services regarding an incident in the French Alps. My chest tightened. I'm in Pennsylvania. There was a brief pause. Yes, ma'am. We are now aware there may be an identification discrepancy. What does that mean? We have booking information connected to your financial account, but we need to verify the travelers. My hand shook again. Tell me their names. Mrs. Bennett, please. He hesitated. Then he said, the male traveler is listed as Mark Bennett. The room went silent around me. I had known. I had already known. Still, hearing his name felt like being hit in the chest. I pressed my hand against my mouth. And the woman? Another pause. Diane Parker. My eyes filled instantly, not because I was surprised, because now there was no explanation left. No misunderstanding. No innocent favor. No canceled training. No copied credit card. My husband had taken the woman next door to France. With my money. Mr. Morris continued speaking. There was a significant avalanche event this morning. Search operations are ongoing. We have not yet confirmed their condition. I couldn't answer. Mrs. Bennett? I'm here. We need someone to verify certain details and authorize communication regarding emergency procedures. I laughed once. Came out broken. You want me to help? I understand this is difficult. You don't understand. Melissa's voice echoed in my head. Call the bank. Stop giving him time to build another explanation. Now there was no explanation left to build. I stood and paced the living room. How long have they been missing? Several hours. Are search teams still out? Yes. Is weather getting worse? Yes. Did my mother-in-law refuse something? Careful pause. She was distressed. That means yes. We were attempting to confirm information. I shut my eyes. Mark had lied to me for months. Maybe longer. He had taken Diane across an ocean. He had used a card under my name. And Carol had just told strangers I deserved to die because she thought I was the one under the snow. Every part of me wanted to hang up. To let Mark's choices finally become Mark's problem. Then Mr. Morris said, timing is important. I sat down. Send me whatever you need. Mrs. Bennett? Send it. Are you sure? Tears rolled down my face. No. I wiped them away. But send it anyway. A few minutes later, documents arrived by email. I read them through blurred vision. Emergency contact confirmation. Travel information. Authorization to share medical details if either traveler was found. I signed everything. Then I called Melissa. She answered immediately. Claire. Mark. She went silent. And Diane. Oh my God. They were in France. I'm coming over. No. Yes. Melissa, I need to finish this paperwork. Then I'll sit beside you while you finish it. My voice broke. He used my card. I know. He told me I was crazy. I know. He made me feel guilty for being jealous. I know. I think he's been doing this for a long time. Melissa's voice softened. Probably. I pressed my fingers to my eyes. Then the truth I had been holding back came out. I still signed the rescue forms. Good. I looked at the paperwork. You think I'm stupid? No. He took her to France behind my back. Yes. He stole from me. Yes. And I just helped them keep searching for him. Melissa answered quietly. Because you're not him. I cried then. Harder than I had since the call began. An hour later, Carol called again. I almost didn't answer. Eventually I did. Her voice sounded different now. Small. Claire. What? Called Mark. And? Nothing. I told you. She inhaled shakily. I called his company too. I waited. They said he's on vacation. Yes. Carol started crying. Why would he do this? I felt something inside me turn cold. Maybe you should ask him. If they find him. The words hung between us. Carol whispered, they told me you signed something. I did. You agreed to the search? Yes. After what I said to you. I looked at the screen. I'm not doing it for you. She began to sob. Claire, I didn't know. No, you didn't. I thought. That was always the problem, Carol. She went silent. You never asked. I ended the call. That night I barely slept. Every time my phone lit up, I expected someone to tell me Mark was dead. I didn't know what I wanted them to say. At 4:17 in the morning the call came. Mr. Morris. I answered before the first ring finished. Hello? Mrs. Bennett. His voice was careful. Too careful. We have an update. My heart pounded. Did you find them? One individual has been located. I stood. Alive? Silence. My knees weakened. Who? We are still completing formal identification. Male or female? Female. Diane. I gripped the back of a chair. And Mark? He has not been located yet. I closed my eyes. The room felt suddenly too quiet. Diane had gone to France with my husband. She had worn jewelry he may have bought with my money. She had slept in a hotel paid for with my name. And now she might be dead beneath the snow. But Mark was still somewhere on that mountain. Alive. Dead. Injured. Waiting. No one knew. I thought that was the worst uncertainty I would ever face. I was wrong. Because when the rescuers finally found Mark Bennett, the things I discovered while he lay helpless in a hospital would prove that the affair was only one piece of what he had done to me. And the money he stole for Diane? That wasn't even the cruelest part. The first thing Carol said when she opened the door was not my name. It was a scream. She grabbed the frame so hard her knuckles turned white and stared at me like I had climbed out of a grave. Her mouth trembled. You're here. I stood on her porch holding a folder against my chest. Yes. Carol looked past me, as if someone else might be standing in the driveway. Then she looked back at my face. But they said Claire Bennett. They did. Her breathing became shallow. They said a woman and a man were missing. Yes. And the hotel was under your name. My credit card was. Carol's face lost what little color it had left. I walked inside before she could tell me not to. She followed unsteadily. I put the folder on her dining table. The woman was Diane. Carol stopped moving. No. I opened the folder. I pulled out the preliminary identification notice first. Then the travel confirmation. Then the copy of the consular report that listed both American travelers. I placed Mark's name on top. Carol stared at it. Mark Bennett. She read it once. Then again. Her lips moved without sound. Finally she whispered no. I said nothing. She looked up at me. No. Mark was in New York. He was never in New York. You don't know that. I called his office. Her eyes filled. He told me he had training. He lied. He wouldn't. Her voice broke. I reached into the folder and took out another page. Diane Parker was confirmed as the female traveler. Carol shook her head harder. No. She died. Carol made a small sound in the back of her throat. I had expected anger, denial, maybe even another accusation. Instead, she gripped the back of a chair. Then her knees gave out. She dropped to the floor. I moved forward instinctively, then stopped myself. Carol sat there with one hand pressed against her mouth. Her eyes were wide and unfocused. Oh God. I said nothing. Oh God. Then she looked at me. A terrible realization passed across her face. What did I say? I knew exactly what she meant. I could have spared her. I didn't. You said if I got myself killed doing something selfish, it was on me. Carol's eyes closed. I didn't know. You said maybe I deserved whatever happened. Claire, you thought it was me. I thought you had run off with someone. And that made it okay? No, you didn't ask. Her eyes opened again. What? You didn't ask who the man was. I was angry. You heard my name and decided the worst thing you could imagine about me was true. I thought Mark was in New York. Because Mark told you that. Yes, and because when Mark says something you believe him. Carol swallowed. That's not fair. I actually laughed. Not fair. She flinched. For 9 years, every time there was a disagreement, you already knew who was wrong before I opened my mouth. That's not true. It is. Claire, this is not the time. When is the time? She looked toward the papers. My son is missing. And I am the person who signed the paperwork to keep searching for him. Carol froze. I continued. When they needed confirmations, I gave them. Her face twisted. They told me. When they needed medical authorization if he was found, I signed it. She started crying again. I didn't know what I was saying. You knew exactly what you were saying. No. Yes, you did. My voice stayed low. That's what makes it worse. Carol looked down. I thought I would feel powerful watching her collapse under the weight of her own words. I didn't. I just felt tired. I had been tired for years. Tired of defending every purchase. Tired of pretending Carol's comments didn't hurt. Tired of Mark telling me I was too emotional whenever I noticed something that made him uncomfortable. Now Diane was dead. Mark was somewhere under snow. And I was standing in my mother-in-law's house explaining why I had chosen to help save the man who had betrayed me. Carol wiped her face. Do they think he's alive? I don't know. Did they say how long someone can survive? They said conditions vary. That means they think he's dead. I didn't say that. They would have found him if he was alive. You don't know that. She looked at me suddenly. You spoke to the rescue people? To the consular coordinator. What did he say? That they're still searching. What about helicopters? They're using what they can. What does that mean? What they can? Carol, she stood too fast and nearly lost her balance. They need to do more. They are doing everything they can. They need more people. I don't control the French rescue services. You signed the papers. Yes. So call them. I have. Call again.
Esther daher.
2 days earlier, this woman had nearly dismissed a rescue effort because she thought the missing woman was me. Now that she knew her son was under the snow, nothing was enough. I said quietly, they were already searching before you cared who the man was. Carol's mouth opened, then closed. She sat down again. I left 20 minutes later. Before I reached my car, my phone rang. Daniel Morris. I answered immediately. Please tell me you found him. There was a pause. We have located a male survivor. My heart stopped. Is it Mark? We are still confirming identity. Is he alive? Yes. I closed my eyes. For 1 second I had to lean against the car. Condition? Serious. How serious? He was found in a partially protected area beneath compacted snow and debris. He is severely hypothermic and has multiple injuries. But alive. Yes. I exhaled. I didn't realize I had been holding my breath until my chest hurt. Mrs. Bennett? Yes. We believe the identification is consistent with your husband. I covered my face. The relief came first. Then anger. Then guilt for feeling anger. Then relief again. My husband had cheated on me, stolen from me, lied to me, but he was alive. I was glad. I hated that I was glad. I was glad anyway. Carol called less than 5 minutes later. They found him? Yes. She broke down. Oh, thank God. They said he's in bad shape. But alive? Yes. Oh, thank God. Then she said something that made my stomach twist. Claire, we can fix this. I went quiet. What? When he gets home. Carol, he nearly died. Maybe this happened for a reason. I stared through my windshield. A reason? To make everyone understand what matters. I almost couldn't believe what I was hearing. Your son went to France with another woman. I know. With a credit card under my name. I know. She's dead. I know. And you think the lesson is that I should save my marriage? I'm saying none of us should make decisions while emotions are high. My emotions are not the problem. He was unfaithful. I'm not excusing that. You're already excusing it. No, I'm not. You just told me this happened for a reason. Carol's voice became defensive. I'm trying to think about the future. So am I. She went silent. What does that mean? It means I'm not discussing my marriage with you right now. Claire, I helped save his life. I swallowed. That does not mean I owe him the rest of mine. I hung up. For the next 2 days, everything moved through other people. Doctors in France, insurance representatives, consular staff, air medical transport coordinators. Carol called constantly. Mark remained heavily sedated. I did not fly to France. That decision gave Carol one more thing to judge. You're his wife. I know. He could wake up. And then what? He'll need someone there. He has doctors. He needs family. I looked at her across her kitchen table. He took Diane. Carol's face tightened. You don't have to say her name like that. Like what? Like she was, what? His girlfriend? Carol looked away. Diane is dead. I know. Then show some respect.
Istert her.
Respect? Yes. I laughed once. Carol, I'm not glad she died. I didn't say you were. But don't ask me to protect the dignity of the woman who was sleeping with my husband. We don't know what happened. My eyes narrowed. What exactly do you think they were doing at a ski resort in France? She could have been a friend. In a hotel suite? Carol flinched. I leaned forward. He lied about New York. I know. He took a second card on my account. We don't know that. Yes, we do. I pulled out my phone. I spoke to the bank. That got her attention. What did they say? There's another physical card attached to my account. Carol frowned. Maybe Mark ordered it for emergencies. Without telling me. Married people share finances. Then why hide it? She didn't answer. I continued. It was issued 11 months ago. So I have almost a year of transactions I don't recognize. Her face changed. What kind? Furniture. That could be yours. It isn't. Home improvement? For whose home? Carol went quiet. I asked, did Mark ever tell you I was spending too much? She hesitated. He mentioned things. How often? I don't know. Carol. Few times. Did he show you bills? She looked uncomfortable. Once or twice. My heart started pounding. What did he say? That the balance kept growing. And you believed him. He showed me the statements. I sat back. That was the moment a new kind of fear entered the room. Until then, I had been dealing with betrayal. Now I was starting to wonder whether Mark had built something around that betrayal. Something deliberate. I drove home and opened every financial record I could access. I spread statements across my dining table. Took hours. First it was chaos. Then patterns emerged. A home improvement charge on a Saturday, Mark told me. He was fixing Diane's basement. A furniture purchase the week Diane said she was finally making the guest room feel normal again. A restaurant charge on a night Mark claimed he was helping a coworker. A jewelry store charge 3 days before Diane showed up at a neighborhood barbecue wearing a gold pendant I had never seen before. I stared at the transaction. September 8th, $487.62. I remembered that week. I had asked Mark if we could finally replace my old laptop. He said no. Not until you get your spending under control. I laughed. Not because anything was funny, because if I didn't laugh I was going to break something. I called the bank again. This time I asked for all documentation related to the second card. The representative told me the request would need escalation. Was it ordered online? It appears so. What address was used? My system shows the primary billing address remained yours. Was the card mailed there? I can't confirm that from this screen. What email authorized it? Another pause. There is an email ending in bntmail.com. My stomach dropped. That was Mark's old personal email, not mine. I wrote it down. Then I called Melissa. She came over with takeout and found me sitting on the floor surrounded by statements. She looked around. Wow, I think he used my credit. She sat down slowly. What? I think he opened an extra card using my account information. Can you prove that? Not yet. What else? I handed her a statement. That home improvement store. She scanned it. $842. Diane's basement renovation started that week. She looked at another page. Furniture. Her guest room. Another. Jewelry. Melissa's face hardened. Oh, Claire. I looked at her. He used to show Carol statements. What? He'd tell her I was overspending. Melissa's mouth dropped open. You're kidding. No. Did he tell other people? I thought about Thanksgiving. Mark joking to his brother about my shopping habits. Mark laughing with friends that I could find a way to spend money in an empty room. Mark telling me afterward not to be sensitive because everyone knows it's a joke. I suddenly felt sick. Think so. Melissa sat back. That's not cheating. I know. That's planning. I know. I hated that she had put the word into the room. Planning. Because it fit too well. I went upstairs and pulled Mark's old laptop from the closet. He rarely used it anymore. It took me 10 minutes to find the charger. The password was still the same one he had used for years. The computer opened. Most of the folders were boring. Work documents, tax PDFs, insurance. Then I found one labeled household. Inside were subfolders, utilities, mortgage, taxes, and one labeled C. I clicked. Screenshots, dozens of them, credit card statements, transactions highlighted in yellow, notes typed beside them. Claire, unnecessary purchase. Claire, excessive. Claire, repeated discretionary spending. My hand started shaking. Melissa leaned over my shoulder. What the hell? I opened another. A $642 furniture charge. Under it, Mark had typed, Claire denied purchase but pattern remains concerning. I whispered I didn't buy that. Melissa's face went pale. Another. Restaurant. Another. Jewelry. Another. Hotel. All labeled as mine. Isette Frossen. He was documenting it. Melissa's voice was barely above a whisper. For who? I clicked through more folders. Then I found drafts. There were saved email documents. One file had a date from 2 months earlier. The subject line read, Financial concerns regarding my wife. My heartbeat became so loud I could hear it. I opened the file. The first paragraph was addressed to an attorney, not his current attorney, a divorce attorney. My eyes locked onto the opening sentence. For more than a year, my wife has demonstrated a pattern of reckless and irresponsible spending that has placed significant strain on our marriage and household finances. I stopped breathing. Melissa read over my shoulder. Oh my God. I kept going. Mark described me as impulsive, secretive, financially unstable. He claimed I minimized purchases, denied charges, refused to follow budgets. He wrote that he feared I would drain marital assets if I learned he intended to separate. I read the words twice, then a third time. My hands went cold. All those conversations, all those jokes, all those times Carol had looked at me like I was a burden, all those moments when Mark had said, you need to get control of your spending. He had not been reacting to a problem. He had been building a story in which he was the responsible husband, and I was the wife who ruined the marriage. Melissa whispered, Claire. I scrolled farther. At the bottom of the draft was one final line. I believe separation may become necessary after the holidays. After the holidays, the exact week he had taken Diane to France. I stared at the screen until the words blurred. Mark had planned to come home. He had planned to sit across from me. He had planned to tell everyone our marriage failed because I could not be trusted with money. And while I defended myself, he would have already had months of carefully labeled statements waiting to prove it. I closed the laptop. For the first time since the avalanche, I no longer wondered whether my marriage could survive. That question was over. The only question left was how far Mark had gone. And when my husband finally opened his eyes in a Pittsburgh hospital, I was going to find out whether the man I had helped save was sorry for what he had done, or only sorry that I had found it. The first thing Mark asked when he woke up was not whether I was okay. It was not whether his mother was okay. It was not even what had happened to our marriage. He opened his eyes in a Pittsburgh hospital, looked at me with cracked lips and panic in his face, and whispered one name, Diane? That was the moment the last piece of me stopped hoping there had been some explanation I could survive. I had spent days helping doctors, insurance representatives, and consular staff bring him home. I had signed forms, answered calls at 3 in the morning, confirmed medications, sent medical history. I had helped save his life. And when he finally woke up, the woman he wanted was the one he had taken to France with my money. I stood beside the bed and said quietly, she's dead. Mark stared at me. His face changed so quickly I almost stepped back. No. His voice was barely there. Mark. No. He tried to lift himself and immediately winced. The monitor beside him started beeping faster. A nurse moved toward the bed. Mr. Bennett, please stay still. Mark ignored her. No. They said she was being searched for. They found her before they found you. His eyes filled. I watched him blink hard like he was trying to force the tears back. Then he failed. One rolled down the side of his face. I hated myself for noticing that he had not cried when he saw me. He had not said, Claire, I'm sorry. He had not said, I thought I would never see you again. He had said, Diane. The nurse adjusted his blanket. You need to rest. Mark turned his face away from me. For several seconds he said nothing. Then how long? How long what? How long has she been dead? I crossed my arms. Few days. He closed his eyes. His jaw tightened. I could see grief in his face. Real grief. That somehow hurt worse than the affair itself. I had spent 2 years being told Diane was just a lonely widow. Apparently Mark had been mourning a relationship I was never supposed to know existed. The nurse looked at me. Mrs. Bennett, maybe we should give him some time. Mark opened his eyes again. No. He looked at me. Stay. The word came out weak. But I knew Mark too well. Weakness did not mean innocence. I stayed. The nurse left. Mark swallowed carefully. Claire. I waited. I know how this looks. I almost laughed. How it looks. He closed his eyes. That came out wrong. Yes, I made mistakes. Mistakes? I know you're angry. Mark, you took another woman to France. I know. With a card under my name. His eyes opened. That got his attention. What? I found the second card. His face went still. I watched the change. Tiny. But there. A flicker of fear. You went through my things? I stared at him. That's your response? I'm just asking. No, you're not. I was unconscious. And I was finding out who I married. He turned his head toward the window. Claire, I almost died. There it was. The shield. The thing he thought erased everything. I stepped closer. And I'm the one who signed the papers that kept people looking for you. He looked back at me. I know. No, you don't. I do. Your mother told them I deserved what happened when she thought the missing woman was me. His face changed. What? She heard my name attached to the hotel. She thought I took your money and ran off with another man. Mark frowned. She said that? She said maybe I deserved to die. His mouth tightened. That's messed up. I stared at him. For 1 second, anger nearly made me laugh again. Do you know why she believed it so easily? He said nothing. Because you spent years telling her I was irresponsible. That's not fair. It's completely fair. I told Mom we had money issues. No, you told her I was the issue. He breathed out slowly. Claire, can we not do this while I'm like this? I looked at his bandaged arm, the bruising near his temple, the hospital gown, the monitors. For years that would have worked on me. He looked vulnerable. Therefore I was supposed to become gentle. Not anymore. I found the folder. His expression hardened. What folder? The one where you labeled purchases as mine. Silence. The furniture? He looked away. The jewelry? Nothing. The restaurants? His breathing became faster. You had notes, Mark. Those were records. They were lies. I was trying to keep track of household spending. By calling Diane's purchases mine? His head snapped toward me. Keep your voice down. I actually smiled. There he was. Not the injured husband. The man I knew. Why? Because this is a hospital. No. Because you don't want anyone hearing exactly what you did. His jaw worked. Claire, I'm asking you not to turn this into something bigger than it already is. I pulled a folded paper from my purse. His eyes followed it. What is that? My attorney's information. He stared at me. You hired a lawyer? Yes. His face went blank. Then furious. You hired a divorce attorney while I was in intensive care? I hired her after I found out you had been preparing to divorce me for months. His eyes narrowed. What are you talking about? I found your draft email. The color in his face changed again. I placed the paper on the tray beside him. Financial concerns regarding my wife. Mark said nothing. You remember that one? His lips pressed together. You wrote that I was reckless. No answer. That I hid purchases. Still nothing. That you were afraid I'd drain marital assets. He finally spoke. I was angry when I wrote that. You saved it. It was a draft. You documented a year of purchases and called them mine. I thought they were yours. I laughed. You bought them. That's not what happened. Then tell me what happened. He stared at me. I waited. He looked exhausted. For a moment I thought he might finally confess. Instead he said Diane was struggling. My stomach turned. With what? Money. The house. Everything. So you helped her? Yes. With my credit? Our credit. My name. We were married. That does not give you permission to open a card without telling me. I wasn't trying to steal from you. What do you call it? His voice sharpened. Helping someone. You bought jewelry. He closed his eyes. I continued. You paid for restaurants. Claire. You paid for renovations. Stop. You paid for a ski vacation in France. He slapped one hand against the mattress. I said stop. The monitor beeped faster. The door opened. A nurse stepped in. Everything okay? Mark immediately softened his face. Yes. I watched him do it. That switch. The same one he had used at dinners. At family parties. With neighbors. He could go from angry to reasonable the moment an audience appeared. The nurse looked at me. Maybe now isn't a good time. I nodded. You're right. Picked up my purse. Mark looked alarmed. Claire. I turned. What? Don't leave like this. How would you like me to leave? He lowered his voice. I almost died. I looked at him for a long moment. Then I said, that's exactly why I'm leaving. His eyes widened. What does that mean? It means I spent 9 years acting like time was unlimited. Claire, I thought if I just stayed patient, things would get better. That's not what. I thought if I spent less, complained less, asked for less, our marriage would be easier. His face tightened. I never asked you to live like that. I stared at him. You absolutely did. He looked away. I stepped closer to the bed one last time. You almost died. My voice was calm now, and I realized I could spend the rest of my life waiting for a man who lies to me to finally become honest. He whispered, I can change. I shook my head. That's not the same thing as saying you're sorry. His eyes filled again. Claire, I put my hand on the rail. I can be grateful you survived without staying married to you. His mouth tightened. So that's it? Yes. You're divorcing me because of Diane? No. He looked confused. I'm divorcing you because of who you had to become to keep Diane. For once, Mark had no response. I left. By that evening, my phone started ringing. His brother, Jason. Then his aunt, Martha. Then a cousin I hadn't spoken to in 8 months. Melissa looked at the screen while we sat at my kitchen table. Don't answer. I'm curious. That's how horror movies start. I answered Jason. Claire. His voice sounded careful. Hey. A pause. Then how's Mark? I almost smiled. You called me to ask how Mark is? I talked to him. Of course he had. What did he say? Another pause. That things are bad. That's one word for it. He said you filed for divorce. I'm going to. Jason sighed. While he's still in the hospital. There it was. I leaned back. Did he tell you why? He said there was someone else. Someone else? He said things got complicated. I laughed. Complicated? Claire, I'm not defending him. You're calling me to question when I leave him. I just think maybe everyone needs a little time. Diane's dead. Jason went quiet. I continued. He took her to France. I know. He lied about where he was going. I know. He used credit attached to my name. I didn't know that. He spent a year calling purchases he made for her mine. Silence. He what? There's more. Jason's tone changed. Like what? Ask Mark. Claire. No. Really. Ask him why he was collecting statements and calling me financially irresponsible. Jason went quiet again. Then I didn't know. That seems to be the family phrase of the week. I hung up. The calls continued. One aunt left a voicemail. I know you're hurt, but marriage vows mean something, especially when someone has almost died. Another texted. You don't have to forgive him today. Just don't make permanent choices while emotions are high. Melissa read that one and snorted. Funny how everyone wants your emotions to calm down, but no one told him to calm down before taking Diane to Europe. I smiled despite myself. Then another message arrived. This one from Carol. Please come by tomorrow. We need to talk. I didn't answer. The next morning she called. I picked up on the 4th ring. What? You're screening my calls now? Yes. Carol sighed. I spoke to Mark. I'm sure. He's devastated. I said nothing. He keeps asking about Diane. That hurt, but less than it would have a week earlier. Carol continued. He's grieving. He can grieve. Claire. What? He lost someone. I nearly laughed. So did I. What do you mean? I lost my husband. Carol went silent. I added, just not in the avalanche. That's cruel. No. It's accurate. She inhaled. I know what he did was wrong. Good. But he survived something terrible. So, people change after that. Maybe. You're not even going to give him the chance? I rubbed my forehead. If the avalanche never happened, when do you think he planned to tell me? Carol stopped. What? Seriously? When? I don't know. Christmas. No answer. New Year's? Claire. After he finished telling everyone I was reckless with money? Her voice sharpened. He says those files were just financial records. I closed my eyes. Of course. Did he tell you that? Yes. And you believed him? I'm trying to understand both sides. There are not two sides to identity theft. Don't use words like that until you know exactly what happened. I laughed once. There you are. What does that mean? The same woman who said I deserved to die because she thought I went skiing is suddenly very interested in careful facts. Carol went quiet. I continued. You didn't need proof to condemn me. That was different. No. Yes, it was. How? She had no answer. I said, you still want this to somehow be my fault. I never said that. You don't have to. I ended the call. Rachel Foster, my attorney, came to my house that afternoon with a legal pad and an expression that made me nervous. We need to move quickly. What happened? Your husband has started contacting people. I noticed. He is creating a narrative. Again. Yes. I handed her Mark's old laptop. She spent nearly an hour reviewing the folders I had found. Then she opened the draft email. Her mouth tightened. This is useful. Useful? It shows intent. To make me look unstable? At minimum, financially irresponsible. She clicked through more files. He saved screenshots separately. I know. That matters. Why? Because normal household bookkeeping doesn't usually involve labeling disputed charges as evidence against your spouse. I stared at the screen. Rachel kept reading. Then she asked, did Mark ever consult an attorney before the trip? I don't know. We're checking. She made a note. Any real estate inquiries? I don't know. Any discussions about selling the house? No. Did he ever ask what you would do if you divorced? I thought back. A strange conversation 6 months earlier. Mark asking whether I could handle the mortgage alone. At the time, I thought he was talking about layoffs. I told Rachel. She wrote it down. Then she looked at me. Claire, I need you to hear me. I nodded. This may not have been a spontaneous affair followed by sloppy financial behavior. I know. It may have been a planned exit. That phrase hit differently. Planned exit. Not mistake. Not confusion. Not grief. A plan. Rachel stayed another hour. Before leaving, she asked for access to Mark's old email backups. That night I barely slept. The next morning she called me before 8. I found something. My stomach tightened. What? I found communication with a divorce attorney. I sat up. When? 3 months before France. I closed my eyes. Rachel continued. He asked about marital debt. What about it? He specifically asked how courts treat debt when one spouse is financially irresponsible. I stared at the wall. Of course he did. There's more. I waited. He also contacted a real estate agent about estimated sale value on your house. My throat tightened. When? 2 months ago. So he was going to leave. It looks that way. I breathed slowly. Did he mention Diane? Not in those messages. Of course not. Claire. What? There's another set of messages. Il s'est between who? Mark and Diane. My heartbeat sped up. You found them? Some of them were synced to an old backup. I gripped the phone. What do they say? Rachel hesitated. That frightened me more than if she had answered immediately. Come to my office. Rachel. I'd rather show you. No. Tell me. She exhaled. There are discussions about after the holidays. My mouth went dry. What kind of discussions? Living arrangements. I said nothing. Timing. Still nothing. And how he expected people to react. I stood. What did he say? Claire. Read it. Another pause. Then Rachel said, Diane asked when he was finally going to tell you. My chest tightened. And? Mark wrote. After the holidays. I closed my eyes. Rachel continued. He said you'd make the divorce ugly if you knew there was someone else. I swallowed. And then? Her voice became quieter. He wrote. The money is easier. Everyone already thinks she's the problem there. I sat back down. The room felt strangely still. For years, I had thought Mark complained about my spending because he was controlling. That was bad enough. But he had not simply controlled me. He had prepared witnesses. Carol, Jason, his relatives, our friends. He had trained them to hear the word money and think Claire. I whispered he planned this. Yes. I pressed my fingers to my forehead. Then Rachel said, there's one more message. I looked up. What? It's about Carol. My stomach sank. What did he say? Rachel hesitated again. Then read it. Mom already thinks Claire burns through money. If things get ugly, she'll back me. I didn't speak. I couldn't. All those dinners. All those comments. All those times Carol told me Mark worked too hard to support my habits. Mark had not just allowed it. He had counted on it. He had used his mother like another line on a financial spreadsheet. A guaranteed asset. A witness he knew would choose him. And suddenly, I knew exactly what I needed to do next. Carol wanted to understand both sides. Fine. I was going to show her every side Mark had hidden. Every charge. Every lie. Every message. Including the one where her own son admitted he had spent years making sure she would help destroy me. I printed the message. Then I called Carol. She answered quickly. Claire, I'm coming over. Her voice softened with relief. Good. I think we can finally talk calmly. I looked down at the paper in my hand.
No, Carol.
What? I think you're finally going to find out what your son really thinks of you. And for the first time since Mark had gone under that snow, I heard fear in her voice before I even told her why. Carol was still defending her son when I placed the first credit card statement in front of her. 10 minutes later, she was crying so hard she could barely read his name. And by the end of that week, she would stand in front of the entire Bennett family and say something Mark had spent years making sure she never would. Claire was telling the truth, but first she had to understand how badly she had helped him lie. Carol stared at the papers on her dining table. What is all this? Mark's version of our marriage. She frowned. I don't understand. You will. I sat across from her and slid the first statement forward. March. She looked down. A furniture store. $800. So, remember when you told me I shouldn't buy a new sofa because Mark was worried about money? Carol's face tightened. I vaguely remember. I didn't buy that furniture. Then who did? Diane. Carol stopped. I pulled out another page. April. Her eyes moved over the highlighted line. Home improvement store. Diane's basement. How do you know? Because Mark told me he spent 3 weekends helping her remodel it. Carol said nothing. Another page. September. Jewelry. $487. Carol's hand froze. I watched the memory arrive on her face. She wore that gold necklace to the neighborhood cookout. Yes. Carol looked at me. No. Yes. He told me you bought jewelry that month. I know. Her lips parted. I slid another statement toward her. November. Carol read the restaurant name. That's downtown. Yes. $216? He told me he was helping a coworker that night. Her eyes filled. I continued. The hotel charges started months before France. She covered her mouth. No. Weekend trips. Restaurants. Gifts. Stop. I'm not done. Claire, please. For years you told me I needed to think about the family. She looked down. You told me Mark worked hard. Her shoulders began to shake. You told me I was spending too much. I didn't know. No, you didn't. She looked up quickly. I believed my son. I know. That made her flinch harder than if I had yelled. I placed Mark's printed email draft on the table. He was preparing to divorce me. Carol's face went blank. What? Before France. She read the first paragraph. Her breathing changed. Financially irresponsible. Reckless spending. Concern about marital assets. Carol slowly shook her head. This doesn't make sense. It makes perfect sense. No, Mark said you two were having money problems. We were. I leaned forward. Because he was spending our money on another woman. Carol looked sick. I pushed the next page toward her. This one is better. It was the recovered message between Mark and Diane. Diane. When are you finally going to tell her? Mark. After the holidays. Carol read it twice. Then the next line. She'll make the divorce ugly if she thinks there's someone else. Then, the money is easier. Everyone already thinks she's the problem there. Carol's lips trembled. He wrote that? Yes, there could be context.
Esther daher.
She looked ashamed the second the words left her mouth. Context? I don't mean. This is what you do. What? You reach for an excuse before you even finish reading. Her face crumpled. I'm trying. No, you're trying to keep one piece of the Mark you believed in. Carol lowered her eyes. I placed the last printout in front of her. She read it. Mom already thinks Claire burns through money. Things get ugly, she'll back me. Carol stopped breathing for a second. Then she whispered, oh my God. I said nothing. He used me. Yes. Her eyes filled. He knew. Yes. He knew I'd take his side. Yes. Her voice broke. And I did. I let the silence sit between us. Carol started crying. Not the dramatic kind I had seen after Mark was found. This was quieter, uglier. The kind that came from realizing your own choices had been part of someone else's cruelty. I helped him do this to you. I looked at her. Yes. She closed her eyes. That one word seemed to hit harder than anything else.
I'm sorry.
I didn't answer. Claire, I am so sorry. I folded my hands. She wiped her face. I should have asked questions. Yes. I should have listened to you. Yes. I thought I was protecting my son. You were. She looked confused. I continued. You protected him from consequences. Carol looked away. For a while, neither of us spoke. Then she said, there's something else. I waited. The call from France. My stomach tightened. I already know what you said. No. She shook her head. You know part of it.
Esther daher.
She twisted a tissue in her hand. The man from the consulate kept trying to confirm the second traveler. My chest tightened. I kept interrupting him. Why? Because I was furious. At me. Yes. She swallowed. He said the rescue teams needed information quickly. I felt something cold move through me. What did you do? I told him I wasn't going to clean up another one of your messes. My jaw tightened. Carol started crying again. I said if you had spent Mark's money sneaking around Europe, then you could deal with the consequences. Carol, I know. No, do you? I do now. I leaned back. What if they had stopped? Her eyes widened. They didn't. That isn't the point. I know. You thought I was under that snow, and you were willing to let anger make the decision. She covered her face. I hate myself for it. I felt no satisfaction hearing that. Only exhaustion. You thought it was me. She nodded. That does not make it better. I know. You thought I deserved it. Carol cried harder. And for once I did not comfort her. 3 days later, Mark was discharged from the hospital with strict instructions, a brace, a cane, and more sympathy than he deserved. His brother Jason decided the family needed to get together. I almost didn't go. Rachel told me I didn't have to. Melissa told me absolutely not. Carol was the one who changed my mind.
Come.
I looked at her across my kitchen table. Why? Because he's telling everyone you abandoned him. I don't care. I do. That's new. She accepted the hit. Yes. I watched her. She said quietly, I let him use me once. Her expression hardened. I'm not doing it again. So I went. Mark was sitting in Jason's living room when I arrived. The moment he saw me, his face tightened. Then he forced a tired smile. Claire. I didn't return it. Jason hugged me awkwardly. Aunt Martha avoided my eyes. Several relatives looked at me with the careful expression people used when they had already heard one side. Mark had prepared well. He always did. Dinner lasted 20 minutes before he started. I know people have questions. I almost laughed. Jason looked uncomfortable. Mark, maybe not tonight. No, it's fine. Mark leaned back carefully. I made mistakes. Mistakes. Again. I hurt Claire. Everyone looked at me. Mark continued. But I also almost died. There it was. And when something like that happens, you realize how important family is. Aunt Martha nodded. I said nothing. Mark looked directly at me. I hoped Claire would realize that too. Carol's face changed. I saw it from across the room. Mark continued. Instead, she froze accounts while I was still recovering. Jason glanced at me. I set my fork down. Those were disputed accounts. Mark sighed. You see? His voice was soft. Reasonable. She's still making this about money. I almost admired the nerve. You made our marriage about money. I'm trying not to fight. No. You're performing. His eyes hardened for half a second. Then he looked around the table. I knew this would happen. I laughed. What exactly did you know? That you'd make me the villain. Carol stood up. Enough. The room went silent. Mark looked at her. Mom. Carol's hands were shaking. But her voice wasn't. You want everyone to know what Claire did while you were in the hospital? Mark frowned. Mom, sit down. No. His face changed. She continued. When the rescue team needed information, Claire answered. Mark looked at me. When they needed authorization, Claire signed it. Aunt Martha stared at him. Carol's voice cracked. She knew you were in France with Diane. Mark's jaw tightened. And she still helped them find you. Mom, she saved your life. That's not. Yes, it is. Mark pushed himself upright. You don't understand what happened. Carol laughed bitterly. That is what I told myself too. He went pale. She reached into her purse and pulled out copies of the statements. You bought Diane furniture. Mark froze. You bought her jewelry. Mom, stop. You paid for hotels. His face hardened. And then you told me Claire was spending too much. No one moved. Jason whispered, Mark. Mark looked around the room. You're all hearing one side. Carol slammed the papers onto the table. I saw your messages. His face went completely still. That was the first moment I knew he understood exactly what she had seen. Carol's eyes filled. You said I would back you. Mom, You counted on me humiliating your wife. That's not what I meant. You knew I thought she was irresponsible because you made sure I thought it. Mark's voice rose. Claire has always been emotional about money. I looked at him. Which purchases were mine? He stopped. The necklace? Silence. The furniture? Nothing. The French hotel? His face turned red. I leaned forward. Go ahead. Tell everyone which part was mine. He snapped. You ruined everything. The room froze. There it was. Not grief. Not regret. Rage. I looked at him calmly. No. He stared at me. You did. Mark grabbed his cane and stood. If you had trusted me. I laughed in disbelief. Trusted you? You never gave me room to explain. You took your girlfriend to France using a credit card in my name. His mouth tightened. Tell me exactly which part one was supposed to trust. No one defended him. Not Jason. Not Martha. Not even Carol. Mark looked at his mother. Are you really choosing her over me? Carol's face broke, but she held his gaze. I'm choosing the truth. That sentence destroyed him more completely than any accusation I could have made. He turned toward me. His voice dropped. You think you won. I stood. This isn't a game. You froze accounts. My lawyer froze disputed funds. You're trying to take the house. I'm trying to get out of a marriage you were already planning to leave. Mark stepped closer. Jason moved between us. Back off. Mark ignored him. His eyes stayed on mine. You still don't know everything. I felt the room go quiet again. What does that mean? His expression changed. Not angry now. Almost satisfied. If you go through with this divorce, you're going to find out. Carol stared at him. Mark, what did you do? He smiled without warmth. Ask Claire's lawyer. Then he walked out. Jason cursed under his breath. Carol looked terrified. I should have been afraid too. A month earlier I would have been. Instead I picked up my purse. Carol grabbed my arm. Claire. I looked at her. What if there's more? There probably is. What are you going to do? I looked toward the door Mark had just walked through. Then I said the one thing he had never expected to hear from me. Find it. Because Mark had spent 9 years teaching me to fear what would happen if I stopped trusting him. Now I was done being afraid of the truth. And the next thing Rachel found would determine whether Mark's final threat was real, or just the last lie he had left. Mark's final threat turned out to be exactly what I should have expected. Not a secret. Not a hidden fortune. Not some devastating piece of evidence that would destroy me. Just one more attempt to make me afraid. Rachel called me the morning after the family dinner. Claire, I found what he was talking about. I sat up in bed. What? He's been leaning on the house. My stomach tightened. What does that mean? He contacted the mortgage lender months ago asking about refinancing options. Without me, he couldn't complete anything without you, but he was gathering information. I closed my eyes. Of course he was. There are also notes about estimated equity, sale proceeds, and marital debt. So his big secret is that he was planning how to split the house? Partly. Rachel paused. He may believe you're emotionally attached enough to the house that you'll give up other financial claims to keep it. I looked around the bedroom, the house where Mark and I had spent 9 years, the kitchen where he had criticized a $100 purchase, the dining room where Carol had told me I needed to think about the family, the driveway where he had once waved goodbye before taking Diane's suitcase to Europe. A month ago, the thought of losing that house would have terrified me. Now, I felt almost nothing. Rachel asked, "Are you okay?" Yes. Do you want to fight to keep it? I answered without hesitation. No. She sounded surprised. No. If keeping that house means spending another year arguing with him over every wall and cabinet, he can have the walls. Rachel was quiet for a second. Then she said, that makes our position much stronger. How? Because he was counting on you wanting it more than he did. I almost smiled. Mark had made the same mistake he had made throughout our marriage. He thought the version of me he had trained would never change. He was wrong. The divorce took months. Not because the facts were complicated. Because Mark made everything harder than it needed to be. He challenged charges he had clearly made. Questioned whether the secondary card was truly unauthorized. Claimed some purchases for Diane had been community support. Rachel almost laughed when she read that phrase. Community support? She looked at me over her glasses. Did the community also need a diamond pendant and a French ski resort? I smiled. Apparently Diane's community did. The more Mark fought, the more documentation came out. Bank records, emails, text messages, travel receipts, account applications. The second card had been requested through login credentials tied to Mark's personal email. He had used my identifying information to complete it. The bank's fraud department became involved. Rachel made sure the disputed transactions were separated from ordinary marital expenses while the case was reviewed. One afternoon, Mark called me directly. I almost didn't answer. Then I did. What? His voice was tired. Can we please talk without lawyers? No, Claire. You can talk.
I'm listening.
He sighed. This is getting out of control. You took my identity and used it to finance an affair. I didn't take your identity. You ordered a card in my name. We were married. You keep saying that like marriage means permission. I was going to pay it back. With what? My income. Our income? He went silent. I laughed softly. That's what I thought. His tone hardened. You're trying to destroy me. No, you're dragging this through attorneys and banks and family. You dragged it through family first. What? You told everyone I was reckless. I was frustrated. You documented purchases you made for Diane and labeled them as mine. I said I was frustrated. And now you're frustrated that the evidence is being used against you. He breathed heavily. Diane is dead. The words changed the air between us. I lowered my voice. I know. She can't defend herself. I'm not asking her to. You're making everything sound calculated. It was calculated. You don't know what our relationship was like. I closed my eyes. You're right. What? I don't. For a second he seemed relieved. Then I continued. And I don't need to. He went silent. I don't need every intimate detail to know you lied to me. Claire, I don't need to know what you promised her. Stop. I don't need to know whether you loved her. His voice cracked. I said stop. And I don't need to know whether you would have left me the week after Christmas or the month after. I swallowed. All I need to know is that while I was trying to save our marriage, you were planning your exit. Mark said nothing. For once I didn't need him to. The house was sold that spring. Carol cried when she heard. Not because of the property, because she finally understood what it represented. She came by while I was packing. You sure about this? I folded a sweater into a box. Yes, you loved this house. I loved what I thought happened here. Carol looked down. I know I don't have the right to ask you for anything. I waited, but I need to say something. I stopped packing. She stood in the doorway twisting her hands. I was wrong. I said nothing. Not just about France. Her eyes filled. About you. I leaned against the dresser. Carol continued. Every time Mark complained, I assumed he was telling me the whole story. You wanted to believe him. Yes, you still would have if the avalanche never happened. She flinched, then nodded. Yes, that honesty mattered more than an easy apology. She wiped her eyes. I thought being a good mother meant defending my son. I looked at her. And now? Now I think I was protecting him from consequences. I nodded slowly. That's what I told you. I know. She gave a sad smile. I hated hearing it. I know. I deserved to. I looked down at the box. She said, I'm sorry for the things I said to you. My throat tightened. For the money comments. For Diane. For every time I made you feel like you had to justify yourself. I didn't rush to forgive her. I had spent too many years being the person who rushed. Instead I said, I appreciate you saying that. Carol nodded. I understand if you never forgive me. I didn't say that. She looked up. I said it'll take time. Her face softened. I can live with that. So could I. For the first time in years, time did not feel like something I owed another person. It belonged to me. The divorce agreement was finalized in early summer. Mark gave up his claim to several disputed funds in exchange for avoiding a longer fight. The unauthorized charges were separated where the evidence supported it. The house proceeds were divided. I walked out with less than the imaginary perfect future I had once pictured, but more than enough to build a real one. The first thing I bought for my new apartment was not a coat. It was a drafting table. Melissa stood beside it after we assembled the legs. You know, normal people celebrate divorce with wine. I have wine. Normal people don't celebrate by buying office furniture. This isn't office furniture. She looked at the oversized table. It has drawers. It's a design table. She grinned. So you're really doing it? I ran my hand across the clean surface. Years earlier, before Mark's rules became the center of my life, I had taken interior design courses. I had done small projects for friends. I had loved it. Then Mark started saying things like, "Is that really worth the time? Your health center job is stable. Do we really need another expense?" Eventually I stopped. Now I called 3 old contacts. One became a small paid project. Then another. Then a family at the clinic asked me to redesign their home office. Melissa kept sending people my way. For the first time in a long time, I made choices without hearing Mark's voice in my head asking whether I really needed them. I bought the navy coat too, not because I needed to prove anything, because winter came and I liked it. That was reason enough. I also called people I had let drift away. Lauren answered after the second ring. "Well, look who remembers I exist." I laughed. "I deserve that." "You do." "I'm sorry." She softened immediately. "Claire." I kept saying no to everything. "I know. Trips. Dinners. Weekends. I know. I always said Mark thought it was too expensive." Lauren was quiet. Then she said, "You know what's weird?" "What?" "You always said Mark thinks." I frowned. "What do you mean?" "You never said, 'I don't want to go.'" That stayed with me. I had spent years confusing his preferences with my choices. A year after the avalanche, Lauren, Melissa, and I went to Colorado. When they first suggested skiing, I nearly said no. Not because of money, not because of Mark, because snow had become tangled up with death, betrayal, and the worst phone call of my life. Lauren noticed immediately. "We don't have to ski." Melissa nodded. "We can sit inside and judge people's outfits." I laughed. "No. You sure?" I looked at them. "Yes." At the base of the lift, Melissa watched me tighten my helmet strap. "You okay?" "Think so." Lauren gave me a careful look. "After everything that happened, no one would blame you if you never wanted to see another mountain." I looked up. For a moment I remembered France. The charges. Diane's name. Mark under the snow. Carol saying I deserved whatever happened. Then I remembered something else. My own voice. "Send me whatever you need. Keep searching." I had saved a man who had spent years trying to make me smaller. Not because he deserved my loyalty, because I deserved to know I had not become cruel just because he had been cruel to me. "I used to think marriage was about enduring things," I said. Lauren glanced at me. "And now?" I smiled. "Now I think life is about knowing when to walk away." Melissa raised an eyebrow. "And skiing toward better decisions?" "That too." We laughed. The lift started moving. I looked down at my gloves, at the coat I had chosen, at the trip I had paid for without asking permission, at the life that no longer required me to explain myself. Mark had spent 9 years teaching me that security meant staying quiet, staying careful, staying grateful, staying married. I finally understood the truth. Sometimes security is leaving before someone takes the rest of you with them. The avalanche almost killed Mark Bennett. It killed Diane Parker. It destroyed the story I had been told about my marriage. But it did one thing I never expected. It exposed everything. The affair, the money, the lies, the plan, and most of all, the person I had become while trying so hard to keep a marriage alive by shrinking myself. At the top, Lauren turned to me. "Ready?" I looked down the slope. For once, no one was telling me where I should go. No husband, no mother-in-law, no fear disguised as responsibility. Just me. I pushed forward, and as I started down the mountain, I realized the strangest part of the whole story. For months, everyone had talked about the avalanche as the tragedy that nearly ended my life. They were wrong. The tragedy had started 9 years earlier. The avalanche was just the thing that finally dug me out.